there's about to be a storm with the Carolina Hurricanes coming up as soon as the clock strikes noon on July 1st, which would make June 27th the part where you're preparing for the storm, the calm before the storm, right? You're trying to get everything, sent into the basement. You're trying to grab your reserves of water. You're like, the storm is a-coming, and you got to get ready. Now, what do I mean when I say the storm is coming? I mean, I believe there's going to be some form of mass exodus of players that we've become pretty comfortable rooting for in Carolina Hurricanes uniforms. Right? I believe that if you look at the restricted free agents and the free agents, and we'll throw Martin Necas in his own category because he's the most talked about trade candidate, restricted free agent kind of in the league. You have Gensel, you have Jarvis, you have Necas, you have Skjei, you have Pesce, you have Martinook, we could go on and on. I'm not sure more than two of them are going to be back. Jarvis is coming back, and probably one other. Who that is could be Martinook on a $1.5 million deal, 1.8 whatever it is going to end up being. Mm-hmm. Could be Gensel on an $8 million deal per year. Like there's so many varied possibilities of what's going on with the Canes, and the only thing that we're getting as far as little like Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs leading us on where it might go is, to Eric Tulsky's credit, he's been doing the interviews, right? The new GM has been out there trusting himself to use the media to his advantage, and I respect it. He came on this show, and I believe, and sometimes you got to recognize when, I believe he used our show a little bit to send a message to the restricted free agents on not signing offer sheets, right? There's a lot of coach speak that he gave us, a lot of we like everybody, it's not possible. And then when we got to offer sheets, he was very, very stern with his talk. And that's a good move by a new GM. Well, he spoke to The Athletic, Pierre LeBrun, and I have a quote here. We're going to focus throughout the show on different players who kind of are going to have their fate decided with the Carolina Hurricanes, either in the days leading up to or shortly after July 1. Eric Tulsky speaking to The Athletic about Skjei and Pesce, Brady Skjei Brett Pesce. This is what he had to say. We're still talking to both of them. I just talked to Pesce's agent yesterday. Look, they're both really good players. We'd like to have them both back. It's just a question of what we can fit and how to make it work. I think they both want to be in Carolina too. So hopefully we can get something done. The salary cap makes it that you can't have everything you want, and we're trying to sort it out. I have to be honest. And actually, you know what? It's kind of appropriate that Dennis was not with the show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Because I think going back to Friday, right, which isn't that long, less than a week ago.
Not that long.
I was convinced Skjei and Pesce both gone.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
I was convinced Jake Gensel pretty much gone, even though there was a little bit more of a groundswell of actually, they're trying hard to get him back. I was convinced Necas was gone. I was convinced. Now there's these little crumbs being dropped that maybe there's a chance, right? As part of that, The Athletic article, Pierre LeBrun said Pesce is almost certainly going to test the open market in July, but he put it at 60-40 that Skjei would test the open market. To which I said, and this was me and my brain reading, right? Because I have the internal monologue thing. I'm going, 40% chance that Brady Skjei doesn't even see the market and comes back to Carolina?
I'll take it.
Fire up. How are we doing this? Are we flipping coins? Are we drawing short straws? Fire it up.
The Magic 8 Ball?
Yeah, let's get the Magic 8 Ball. We got the wheel. Whatever it takes, let's go ahead and do it, because 40% is a way better shot than I thought there was that Brady Skjei would be coming back. And you're saying it's a 40% shot. It happens before July 1. Now, I'm doing this with Gensel. I'm doing this with Skjei. I'm not fully there, but I am leaving the door much, much, much more open to a return from these guys. And you ever have this one where it's like, at first you hate something happening, and then the more you think about it, and maybe it's out of your control, you start to kind of like it. And then when it goes back to what you wanted originally, you're a little disappointed, even though that's what you wanted in the first place. I think that's kind of happening with me. Because if Skjei and Pesce both move on, if you would have brought this up right after the season, I would have been like, man, that stinks, right? Brady Skjei is such a talented player. I can't tell you how many times either Dennis or I, if you total them up together, the number would be gargantuan. How many times we said Brady Skjei's game is going to age well, right? Like
100%.
If you would have told me like there's a chance they can come back, I'd be so excited. But because I talked myself out of those two guys returning, and I started letting my mind wander to what like a Scott Morrow plus a cheap veteran third pairing on defense could do for allowing you to spend elsewhere, I started to get excited about that. And I started going, you know what? If your first two lines are Slavin and Burns and Orlov and Chatfield, I think you can penny pinch a bit on that third pairing and spend that on the forwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to get excited about the way that looked. So even though I started off saying, like, bring Skjei and Pesce back if you can, how awesome would that be? When I didn't believe that was possible, I kind of talked myself into what the roster would look like without those two guys as, like, maybe that's the change they need. Maybe that's the shakeup. Now you start to hear, well, actually, you know, there's a possibility Skjei may come back, and we're still talking with Pesce, just talked to his agent, and I'm a little disappointed.
Like you're disappointed?
Because I've talked myself into the other one.
Gosh, bringing back two of our better players. Damn it.
It's like, well, I wanted to see, like, I was excited for the change. You know what I mean? I was excited to try something new. Now we're going back to what I originally wanted as a possibility. And it's like, this is why being a GM is so hard. Because it's not, it would be, Eric Tulsky's job would be easy if you were just seeking out the right answer, right? If ever, like, there was a right answer and a wrong answer, that's an easy job, right? It's like a multiple choice test. You're just always trying to pick the one that's right. The fact is, though, there might be two right answers, right? There might be 10 right answers, and you have to find the one that's most right or the one that allows for the biggest margin of error, or sometimes it's just 6-1, half dozen to the other. You got to pick one and get lucky. If you told me they bring back Brady Skjei, that's a right answer.
Yeah, I'll take that all day.
If you tell me they don't bring back Brady Skjei or Brett Pesce and spend very little on the third line, have Scott Morrow and a $1.8 million veteran that they find in free agency, and they take all of that money and go give it to Jay Gensel, that's a right answer to me.
Okay, yeah.
If they let Gensel walk, they take all that money, they don't have Brady Skjei or Brett Pesce coming back, there's a whole host of free agency options that might make me say, that's a right answer. Brady Skjei and Brett Pesce, this situation, because we've lived in it for so long, because I've already talked myself into both sides, I'll be very, very lenient with how this show reacts to whatever they do with Brady Skjei and Brett Pesce. This is not like if and we'll talk about this later, if Jake Gensel signed somewhere else for $8 million per year, $8.5 million per year, I'll be pretty upset. Right?
If it's just that, yeah.
Yeah, if it's 7 years, $8.5 million somewhere else, I'll be pretty furious that the Canes didn't go up to get him. If Brady Skjei and Brett Pesce leave, I don't think I'll be furious. If they come back, I don't think I'll be like it's there's multiple right answers here. So it is really shades of gray, right? Can you get him for $500,000 less? It might be that simple. Do you know what else that does for Eric Tulsky and the Canes front office? Their Knights of the Round Table.
What's that?
Gives you a lot of leverage. Most teams that have Brady Skjei on their roster as an unrestricted free agent, you have the rights up until July. If you told most teams you're going to lose Brady Skjei, It's all hands on deck. No, we're not. Sound the alarms. Where can we find more money? We can't let that player leave. He means too much to us. He's too darn good. With the Canes, it's like, all right, if you leave, that might be good for us. That might be the change we need, as weird as that is.